Welcome to In the Foxhole. I am your host, JC Chanowski.
And I'm Angela Schroeder.
And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We have Mr. Adam McChesney here today. Welcome, Adam. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. We are so excited to have you here today. We're going to talk about some of the good highlights of life, the things, the trenches that we're getting into in business and personal things. And we want to hear all the stories you can share with us. So first, why don't you give the viewers a little highlight reel of some things you have going on in life and business and tell everybody a little about yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So Adam McChesney, born and raised here in St. Louis, Missouri, lived here pretty much my entire life. Married to my lovely wife, Delaney. We're expecting our first child, a baby boy, coming in September. So going to add the title of dad to the list of all the different titles I have. So super excited about that. Right now, I'm an owner at Hite Digital. So we're full service digital marketing agency, everything from logo branding, web design, SEO, pay-per-click, Facebook ads, all that good stuff. I own a couple other service-based businesses as well in auto glass repair and landscape design that I created by happen chance by just building a bunch of websites and seeing kind of what sticked and turned them into businesses. Spent 5 years in medical device sales, did that up until the pandemic, and luckily got back into digital marketing in 2018. Started as a side hustle, transitioned into a full-time business, not necessarily out of necessity, but just because I was kind of sick and tired of working in corporate America. And the pandemic gave me a really good opportunity to take full advantage of that. So fast forward to now, that's pretty much everything I have going on.
That's exciting. You had a lot going on there, and congratulations on the baby on the way. That is so exciting.
Being your parents, the greatest.
Yeah, one of the highlights of my life was when Nixie was born 13 years ago. It's just crazy how time flies. So I'm so excited for you, and looking forward to see the journey of that.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
So before we dive into the trenches of your entrepreneurial journey, tell us about something you're celebrating, a win that you're celebrating right now.
Yeah, so I actually haven't publicly announced this yet, but on June 1st, I became a partner in all of Hite corporate together. So I was a franchisee for 2 years and took our existing business, our clients, our team, and kind of merged it one and the same with the corporate office. So now I'm an owner of the bigger piece of the pie, which is really exciting, as well as working on some really cool projects around personal branding and sales to eventually build out a large sales team across the country.
That's incredible. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, very exciting. Very exciting.
That is taking it to the next level. You mentioned personal branding and getting like your own voice out there. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know that's a journey we're both on as well.
Yeah. So I was in medical device sales where I didn't have to do any personal branding. I sold CPAP equipment. And I was at a company called ResMed. We were the premier product in the market. There was one other competitor. So I literally just had to outsell one person and they had to buy one of our products. And I was really good at doing my job and we had a really good product. So I was really successful and managed about a $25 million a year territory. When I went into digital marketing, there's hundreds of thousands of options that are out there and everybody's selling essentially the exact same type of thing. So when I was building up the business on the side, I was connecting with a lot of business owners and I was not trying to sell my stuff because I really didn't need the money. I wanted the experience and to understand how to position myself in the market once I went full time. Well, I built 200 websites before I ever sold one to anybody. Wow. And so I was getting a lot of good feedback and information, just, hey, this is what we don't like about digital marketing. And one of the things is that people, business owners, because I work with a lot of service-based business owners, they get cold called, DM'd, spammed hundreds of times every single month, offering the exact same thing. So the way that I separated myself once I went out full time is I want to talk about the lifestyle of an entrepreneur, regardless if you're in digital marketing or any business that's out there, because business is business 80% of the time. 20% of the time is industry specific and even where you're at in business. And so one of the reasons why I get so much business and I've grown our entire business off of my personal brand is because I'm not trying to sell something down somebody's throat. I'm providing value and providing the ins and outs of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And then people go to my profile and they're like, oh, he also does digital marketing. Let's talk to him about digital marketing. So I've reverse engineered what people actually want when they're looking for a digital marketing agency.
Smart, very smart.
And you do a good job of that. Your messaging being positive, and like you said, attraction marketing of attracting people to your message and people liking you, because people do business with who they know, like, and trust. And so I think you're doing a great job of that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, cool. So we talked about some very exciting things. You got multiple companies, your new buy into the Hite company. That's incredible. And working on your brand. But I'm sure everything wasn't just this, joyride to get to this part where everything was just falling in place and everything was lining up the way it should be. Can you talk to us about a time where you had a challenge or you had to overcome something that, was tough to get through, and who was there to help you get through that to be as successful as you are today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things that has helped me through the tough times, and I'll get to some of the tough times here in a second, but is being in communities and connecting with people like yourselves. So a month into entrepreneurship, I joined my first mastermind. Normally that takes people 3 to 5 years at minimum to realize that they need a support system to be able to help them compress time, right? So avoid the roadblocks along the way and understand what it's like to actually deal with those things. So I've only been doing this for 3 years. Sometimes it seems like 30 years, but I have been lucky and fortunate enough to not experience anything super, super crazy, because I've been able to identify through other people and their experiences what is most important in business and how to avoid some of those things, and then take the lesson from those things. About 9 months into doing this full time, I was everything inside the business. So I was building the websites, I was doing the sales, I was doing the SEO. I mean, I was literally everything. I could not understand or fathom trying to hire other people to do something, because I had built it on the personal brand. I was like, people are buying Adam. Adam needs to have his footprint and handprint on literally everything. So I got to a point where I was working 18, literally sometimes 16, 17, 18-hour days, and I was burnt out. I was getting ready to just throw in the towel and be like, all right, I'm just going to go back to medical device sales. I was making $200,000 a year. Like, I don't have the freedom. I just created a job for myself. So I got to the point where I ended up, luckily enough at the time, getting connected with Hite Digital, who was offering really everything unique to the digital marketing space as a franchisee that I was looking for. So I luckily turned that struggle into an opportunity where my life was falling apart at, it seems, only 9 months into entrepreneurship, to an opportunity of going to Hite Digital and then turning that into the opportunity that I have right now to be a partner there. Secondarily from that is the shiny object syndrome. So my digital marketing company was literally 6 months in business, and I had this website that was producing 600 auto glass phone calls a month. And the company that I was selling the leads to were like, Adam, we can't handle 600 calls a month. Like, this is absurd. Well, it's because we were the #1 result on Google from the map pack and the website listing organically. And I didn't know what to do with it. So I decided, oh, hey, this sounds like a good idea. How hard could it be to go start an auto glass company? I'm glad I did it, but terrible, terrible decision at the time. Lost about $60,000 the first year between a bad business partner, between not having any idea what auto glass was in and of itself. And then I didn't learn the lesson. Then I went and started a landscape design company 5 months later, all while my marketing agency was like on the up and up. I halted the marketing agency's growth for about 6 months because my energy, not even my money, but my energy was dispersed between 3 different directions. And the marketing company itself still needed me there. And so even though I was there, right, my mind was in those other places that really took me off track. I don't even know. I mean, I've grown in the agency an insane amount in 3 years, quicker than most would, but I can't even imagine what I would have been able to accomplish had I just stayed in that lane when I went off for those shiny objects.
Yeah, it's a struggle I think we all have. It's like we have this great idea in our head and we need to execute on this now, because if we don't, it's not going to be great then. So let's just run with it and see what happens. And then we fall short on everything else we're working on. So we can't give 100% to 3 different things. So now we're getting 33%, 33%, 33%. But fortunately for you, you're able to keep all of them afloat and continue growing them. So good on you for that, because that's a lot. That's a lot to take on and keep all of them growing successfully.
As you said, a typical problem, especially of visionary entrepreneurs. And we were just discussing this, like things seem like this great opportunity. I love you described it as a shiny object. Like this looks like a really shiny object to go after. But as we said, all these shiny objects might all be great opportunities. Those might have worked out and been great opportunities, but something is going to lose attention and something's going to lose energy. And if we're chasing this, it's a conscious decision that we're taking it away from something else.
I love that. And I think one of the lessons that I learned throughout that process, and it's kind of gotten me to where I'm at right now with Hite, is I used to think I had to own 100% of everything that I put my hands on, right? So I'm like, I want 100% of all this stuff, even though they're little super pies, simple pies in comparison to the big overarching pie. And my thought process around that was so ridiculous because I was never going to be able to offer the auto glass company what it needed or the landscape design company. And so since then, I've offloaded some of that equity in those companies to investors, as well as people that are in the business. So then that way they think about the business as their own. And it's given me a different outlook on how I can accomplish more with less of my time by not just strongholding and thinking I need to have 100% of all of that stuff. You'd rather have multiple pieces of those pies if it requires less of your time, resources, and energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then having that multiple streams of income coming in too, but doing less of the work is huge too, because as you grow personally, you can't keep committing 100% to all of them. And now you're about to be a father. So the fact that you're able to have people working for you and with you to grow those companies and continue to scale it is important to keep it successful.
Absolutely.
I want to dive back into an earlier part of that struggle story. And in the beginning, you describe what often people go through, that period of entrepreneurship where you were really self-employed and not a business owner. So tell us a little bit about that shift, that reality, the mental block that you hit. I think that this isn't what I thought entrepreneurship was going to be. Like I gave away all my freedom.
Yeah.
There is none.
So I think and this is funny because I think a lot of people go through this, even though they might not understand it. I certainly didn't understand it at the time, but I thought I had convinced myself that sales solved every problem that the business had. And so I came from medical device sales where all I knew was like sell, hit your quota, and then sell more. And then I went and tried to duplicate that in my own business without having processes and systems, without having core values, without having SOPs and actual employees. Like it was the most absurd thing looking back on it. So I skipped all the foundational stuff, even though I read it in every single book and heard it from everybody else. I kind of had to learn it the hard way, I guess, because I'm a visionary. I'm not the processes and systems person. Like that's just not me. And so I think a lot of people don't realize that they end up creating just another job for themselves because they're too ignorant to the fact that nobody is actually going to buy or invest in a business if it's just you as the operator, because they need you there physically in order to do that. Now, there's of course going to be a time in any given business where you have to be that person wearing all the hats. But if you're not setting it up for success to bring other employees in and have that be scalable, then you're going to have to go do it all over again. I kept telling myself, oh, when I get to X amount of revenue, or when I bring on my first employee, that's when I'll do the core values. That's when I'll do the processes and systems. And it was totally backwards.
Yep. Yeah, that's important too, because 13 years in business, we didn't really figure that out until recently ourselves. In my head, I had everything, but that doesn't help the team. They can't see it. They can't, believe in it if it's all in my head and I just talk to them about it. We finally got it in paper. We have it on the walls. We have it in writing. We have it in our job ads, our company handbook and everything. And now everybody is a part of it. And they live it and they understand our core values. And that's, like you said earlier, you at least read the books and had people telling you. It's kind of like when you're building something, you just throw the instructions out. Like, I don't need that. I'll do it on my own. I'll figure it out. I didn't read the books, unfortunately, but I did learn along the way because of great mentors and coaching groups and things like that. And finally, when it clicked, like, hey, you really should just listen to them and do what they're saying. They've done this before a time or two. That's where things really just started getting traction.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where you either have to like go to rock bottom and kind of see that, whether that's actually rock bottom or rock bottom personally, or where you're just like, why am I even in entrepreneurship? Should I just go get a job working for somebody else? Or you lose key employees, because that's been the other thing that we've lost in some of the other companies, not necessarily the marketing agency, where we're like, wow, we ran this thing into the ground because we didn't have those processes and systems, because we didn't have those core values. We almost set people up for failure at times. And then that's when it clicks, like, oh, maybe I should change the way I'm doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of times you think, like you said, that I'll do the core values when I have my first employee, that we tie those things, like we don't need a process or we don't need the core values until there is the team. But core values define so many more things. They define how the clients that you want to attract, how your behavior is. And so setting those up front, I don't think any of us did. Like I said, it's a learning lesson that we try and tell other people, but that's the whole foundation of how you want to operate of yourself, because the core values aren't just about the business. They're who you are as a person.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you said something earlier, too. You said it usually takes business owners about 3.5 to 5 years, I think that's the number you said, to get involved with a coaching group or a mentor. And, you know, that was my struggle for a long time, too, is I didn't need them. I couldn't afford them. I'm doing everything on my own. I'll figure it out. And now that I've had a coach, several coaches, and spent a lot of money investing into them, you know, the returns have been incredible. And I wish I was more mature through the entrepreneurship to realize, like, you should do this earlier on. And I think that's a big part of advocating and educating other entrepreneurs that, hey, don't wait till it's too late. Like, invest in yourself now, because the return you're going to get on for this is just going to, you know, save you so much time and energy and money to be successful. I mean, we had the opportunity the other day in Nashville. I had a guy, he's 18 years old, sitting in a room, and I think the youngest person besides him was in his mid 30s. And I was just blown away. Like, I had to recognize him in front of the whole entire room, that he was 18 in a room full of 50 other entrepreneurs, like, on the path to success. Like, somebody set him up for success, and it's incredible to see that. So, I mean, that's just an advocating or education piece for a lot of entrepreneurs, to invest in yourself early.
I think it's a great point. I think a lot of people, because I've asked this question to other people, especially like business coaches and things like that, like, why do you think entrepreneurs delay getting help or investing in themselves and all those things? It's because at some point we all think that we have the right answer and that we're going to be able to figure it out on our own, and that the cost of joining those groups or hiring that coach is so exponential that the return on investment isn't there. Because it's one of those things where you're like, you almost can't quantify the ROI you're going to get by being in those rooms and being coached by those people. Even for me, as somebody that I've been in those rooms and gotten clients from it, the ROI is still 100 times usually more than whatever revenue you bring in directly from that. The second aspect of that is, for me specifically, I tie it back to sports. And so I played college soccer. I was never the quickest, the fastest, or the strongest, but I was always seeing one or two plays ahead. So I was in a better position than some of the people that were better, faster, and stronger than me, had more talent, but I was just a little bit smarter. When I was building up that side hustle, I started following people like Ryan Stewman and some of those Facebook groups. And then I started following some of the people that were in those groups and having the most success. So I was like, it's a side hustle right now. I'm not going to invest in these masterminds. But once I go full throttle, it probably makes sense for me to do that, because I see the one common thing between all of these other people. So even though once I kind of hit that stride when I went full time, it was really a couple of year buildup of me being like, hey, look at what successful people are doing. That leaves clues. Go follow those clues.
That's right. Yeah. And the one pattern that I saw for anybody that was in my previous coaching group is that if they weren't successful and they weren't seeing the ROI, it's because they weren't doing the work and they were making excuses for everything. and for everybody except for themselves on why it wasn't working. So you have to do the work. It's not a magic pill. You're not just going to get the script of life and business and say, here you go implement this. You still have to put the work in, put the time in. And it's scary too. I mean, it's scary saying like, hey, I need you to go hire this many people. I need you to go put this $100,000 truck on the road in order to be successful. I need you to, do all this in marketing. But obviously these people have done it and they're telling you things for a reason to save you time and money. So doing the work is the hard part for most people.
Yeah.
I think in the beginning, that made me think of in the beginning as an entrepreneur, sometimes we think we know it all, but we love the freedom of we're not accountable to anyone, right? Like we're the boss, we're not accountable to anyone. And if you really invest in being part of those groups and do it the right way, like you said, and are doing the work, you are setting yourself up for accountability and other people knowing what you're doing, other people knowing what your activity is, other people seeing your results, seeing if you hit your goal or not. And that's a vulnerable, scary place to be that is different than I'm in business on my own and I'm on my own track.
And I also think it's the comfortable, aspect of doing this. You don't want to get out of your comfort zone because it's so uncomfortable there, right? I was talking with an entrepreneur the other day that's in digital marketing and that was complaining about, I'm not growing as quick enough. Like I see you doing all these things. I said, you're going to look back at this time and you're taking it for granted right now. Because once you start to bring on employees, then you have them that you're worried about as well and their families and the trickle down effect of all of those things. I look back at some of the most fun times in business where I was just doing it on my own, even though it was long days and things like that. But if it failed, I only really ruined it for me. And I'm obviously taking lessons from it and me and my family, but you're like, your back's against the wall. You don't know what you don't know. It's kind of fun back then, but we always find ourselves wishing for that next layer and say, once I hit $1 million in revenue in the company, everything is going to be better. I'm going to be able to hire the employees. Once you get to that spot, the problems don't go away. They just tend at that point. And then you're like, now I have all these employees and clients and all this stuff. And then the stresses and anxiety is almost so much more, even though the money is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true. That is a different level of people that you are accountable for. And I just thought before this, we were having a conversation. I just got off of a team meeting and it gets overwhelming at different stages of growing, right? I was looking at all their faces like, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people to be responsible for, to not let down, to not screw up the next step. So that's a good point.
But it is exciting growing it because to what she's talking about, I remember I used to have to hire everybody, the interviews, the phone calls, sitting down, the whole onboarding process. And the last 2 years, I can't tell you how many times I've come in. I'm like, who are you?
It's fun.
But it's so exciting that you built the trust and confidence in your team to be able to take care and handle all those things without you. And they're doing it successfully. And granted, they're not going to get it right every single time, but I didn't get it right every single time when we did it. So, but it's just so fun and rewarding to see them grow personally and professionally with you as your company grows.
It ties into the bigger mission that I think we all have as entrepreneurs, people that are looking to grow people as well as reward them and see their journey and see what they're able to accomplish for themselves, for their family, and all these other things. That to me was one of the most surprising things I think about entrepreneurship for the rewarding standpoint. I thought it had to be all about me, the company, my clients, all those things. Of course, the team members, but team members getting married, buying houses, cars, like all of those things, that reflects almost more on you and your company than any monetary value you have in the business because the impact is so much bigger.
Yeah, I love that. So real quick, can we go back? You said earlier you had the glass company and you lost, I think it said $60,000 the first year because of a bad investment with a partner.
Yeah. So I obviously wasn't going to learn auto glass on my own. And I had no idea that I could go find people that have been in the industry. I had no idea. So I found this guy that was an auto detailer that said he knew his way around auto glass. And then we sent him to training and all this stuff. So I invested a bunch of time energy money into equipment, in trucks, and all this stuff. Well, he took our $70,000 truck across country and wrecked it, and then stole a bunch of money from me. And then we weren't profitable the first year in business. So it was like this up and down roller coaster. I'm like, I haven't even paid myself from this company, and I have all these leads. Like, clearly the business is failing at some spot. Well, it turns out this guy was stealing from me and then drove the truck across the country, and whole other slew of issues. But yeah, it was a large lesson.
So rather than, I mean, you're just getting kicked and kicked and kicked on that deal over there. Rather than just saying, all right, enough is enough, I don't belong in the auto glass. What was the pinnacle, or what was the turning point for you to say, like, this is what I need to do to turn this around and become successful?
Yeah. So I was trying to offload the company to anybody. So I was literally cold calling auto glass companies around here. I'm like, hey, literally, I have this gold mine over here. I will show you the numbers. Can I please just sell you the business? Like, I'll sell you just the website if you don't want the team and the truck and the inventory. And they were like, no, we're good. Like, they wouldn't even look at the calls. They didn't believe anything that I was actually saying. So I said, okay, whatever. So I tried to sell it to an employee, didn't work out. Sold it to an investor that brought in a bunch of capital, because we were kind of at that point where we needed more money in order to get more trucks and hire more people. But I had just lost 60 grand in the first full year. I'm like, no, thank you. And he came in, we gave some equity to our manager at the time that was basically doing everything inside the business other than installing the glass. And the company has literally just skyrocketed, because I was almost despising any time and energy that I had to put on the company, and I owned 100% of it. So we were literally a month away from me just being like, hey, we're going to shut the lights off. And found an amazing opportunity for somebody to come in, take a little bit less of the piece of the pie. Now we've got 5 trucks out on the road versus just one. I think we just hit $75,000 last month in revenue, with the average ticket of being like $350. It's a lot of different auto glass we're replacing every single month. So it's been really cool and an eye-opening experience to see me step away and other people that actually want to be there and spend time and energy and money doing it, what is actually possible.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, it's, I mean, way to be resilient on that, because most people would just be like, all right, I'm done. Just shut it down and turn it off. But you just kept going. So now, was it the same thing?
Or not, but
it ended up being.
Yeah, it worked out.
Now, tell us about it was a landscaping company, right? Was that the same kind of trajectory, or
same kind of
successful?
Same kind of, so not as many issues and headaches and all that stuff. Right now, basically, it's mostly design work with some concrete. We've been starting to do more of that, a lot of outdoor living spaces and things like that. But I had a guy that was in the business world of landscape design already, about 4 hours away, moved to St. Louis to work for somebody else, realized he didn't want to work for somebody else. And I met him at an event, and I was like, dude, this is going to sound really, really crazy, but I have this. And he was the same thing. He's like, there's no way you're getting, because these websites were only up for a year. He's like, I was doing this for 12 years down in a smaller market, and we were never getting this much. I'm like, I'm just telling you, you can look at the data, all that stuff. So luckily, he put up some of the money, knew the industry and all that stuff. So we didn't have the same learning lessons that I had to learn in the auto glass space.
You had a good partner this time.
Yes. Well, yes.
So usually when business owners, entrepreneurs start a business, they start a business in the field they've worked in or have experience in. And you went from medical to digital marketing to auto glass to landscaping. So you just kind of diversified your portfolio. And having 3 different types of business, I like to say business is business. How has having those 3 different diverse portfolios helped you grow one of the other's business? Have you learned from like, hey, this is working here, maybe we should try doing this in the other business? Or has any of the businesses been able to complement each other in that way?
Yeah, so the landscape design and the auto glass are great complements into our digital marketing company, because I built those businesses just off of SEO and ads that I do for the clients in the digital marketing company. So very few digital marketing companies can actually be like, hey, I'm the owner of this digital marketing company, but I created 2 other businesses that I have no idea about through the exact same services that I'm selling you. because most digital marketing companies aren't selling what we're selling, right? But I have the experience in understanding of what it's like on the service side to understand the pain points that they're going through. Most marketing companies get super frustrated when somebody leaves them because they're like, hey, I just can't afford this right now, even though marketing and advertising might work. But it could be that it rained for 3 weeks straight and no revenue came in. It could be that a bunch of employees leave and you just can't handle more work. Most marketing companies can't understand the minds of their actual clients because they've never been in that position before.
I love that, how it's given you such a unique perspective to your clients, like you said, of exactly what the pain points are because you have gone through them. So even though they ended up in a weird twist, it ended up giving you the best. Yeah, it worked out in giving you the best perspective.
Yes, it did.
I want to dive back into, I love that you said, because this resonated with me and my journey into entrepreneurship first, that you think you can sell your way out of anything. And I had never thought of that before, but I think so many people go into it thinking that, you know, you're just like a hustler and a driver, and this is the one thing that I can control. And maybe that is tied to the visionary aspect, but that definitely resonated with me. Like, all I got to do is sell some more stuff. As long as the money's coming in, it'll figure itself out.
Yeah, I think we work with a lot of service-based businesses, and a lot of service-based businesses start because of a sales rep working for another company. And then they're like, oh, I can go do roofing, siding, remodeling, landscaping better than the company that I'm currently at. And they were the top salesperson at that company. So they're like, oh, I know how to sell. I'll figure all the rest of the stuff out. Sales only will put Band-Aids on bigger problems, mostly processes and system and actual fulfillment related in the actual business. So you go on this up and down roller coaster of I sell a bunch, then I got to fulfill, then I sell, and then it's just this unequal system that is a roller coaster that makes everything exposed long term. And that's why you see some of these businesses literally only last for 2 or 3 years because they're sales-driven organizations that don't have the actual customer experience, fulfillment, processes, and systems tied to it.
Yeah, exactly. I like how you describe that they are. That's why businesses crash. And we know that there's so many new businesses that don't succeed. And tying it to that cycle, I think, is exactly right. People go in thinking that they can be a success because they're like, I can sell the heck out of that. And a lot of people can sell smoke, but don't know or have it fixed of what's behind it. And I would say I wouldn't say that's been true smoke on my entrepreneurial journey, but you're able to, as you create new businesses, succeed faster because you understand, like we talked about with core values and the processes, that those have to come first. You can sell to a point that you need to like sell and then maybe plateau for a bit, that it's time to get the systems in place before you take yourself to the next scalable level.
Absolutely.
So what was one of the biggest hurdles or challenges you faced? Previously you were 100% owner of the company and then you took on the investor. So now it's not just what Adam says goes. Now you have to, communicate and answer to somebody else or answer to each other. What was the hardest part about being able to switch that role from 100% owner to a partnership?
I think just staying in my lane and realizing that like the only reason the business really started is because I know SEO and ads really well. So I don't know auto glass. I don't know payroll. I don't know pricing and all of those different things. Like I know what I know. So for me, it was actually an easy thing because I had so much animosity towards the situation as a whole. It kind of just reset me back into, hey, this is your lane. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. And it kind of led into even the situation with Hite, where I wanted to go into the bigger piece or the bigger company and have a smaller piece of the bigger pie because I'm really good at sales and personal branding. And I didn't like the hiring and the firing and all these different things. And I can have a bigger impact with more people, with more clients, with more team members there. And so I think just getting super clear on what it is that you want, which ties into the bigger thing of why do people start companies and what are their actual missions and why? A lot of times it's a revenue number. A lot of times it's money in their actual bank account. and they don't realize the headaches and the issues that are going to come along with that. Okay, awesome. You want to get to $10 million. You realize you don't like employing the 10 people that you have right now because you don't like employees. You're going to have to get to 50 employees in order to get there. That doesn't make sense. So you have to understand the stepping stones that actually take in order to get to your goals. And it can't just be a revenue number. You have to reverse engineer the processes and systems, the payroll, the taxes, employees, all of those different things.
Did you guys have clear defined roles as you started that process of working together?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Once we kind of started that, I thought you were going to ask in the beginning. I was like, no, everybody was all hands on deck, just doing whatever. But yeah, once we've kind of transitioned into the model that we're in right now, it's very clear and defined, and it helps take away all of the guesswork on who's supposed to be doing this, who's supposed to be doing that. It's like, no, you're in your lane. And then basically our manager kind of houses everything else. If it needs to get to somebody else, or there's multiple people who it might go under, she's the one that kind of helped facilitate and kind of weeds out where that needs to go.
Yeah. And I think it's very important, just like your core values and all those other things. If it's not in writing, nobody knows. I mean, we can say we agreed upon it, we talked about it, but where are we going back to find that accountability? And we just started another business, myself and 3 other guys. And that was one of the first steps we did, was sit down, like, whose job and responsibility is this, so that everybody was accountable for something, instead of like doing the whole finger pointing. Like, I thought you had this. No, it's, black and white. This is what your task. This is your job. Make sure you execute on that. If you need help, let us know, but this is what you're accountable for.
Love that. Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, for sure. When it's anything but in every role, whether you're partners in a business or investors or the manager leading of those expectations in the leadership and roles.
Well, awesome, Adam. So we got the new partnership in the company. Congratulations. That's incredible. Baby on the way. I mean, that's super exciting. That's probably the best news I've heard from you today. I mean,
yes.
I can't remember that day. March 10th, 2010. Holy cow. Happy for that. Anything else that you want to talk about or tell the viewers about?
Yeah. So 2 of the projects that I'm really excited to also be working on in addition to those things is, one, just continuing my speaking and personal branding stuff. So I got, I think, 11 more events throughout this year that I'll be speaking at. Some of them virtual, some in person, trying to squeeze a bunch in before September. Going to Costa Rica next week to speak at that event, and really just helping people get better. Like I said, sometimes it's on digital marketing, sometimes it's on personal branding, sometimes it's on entrepreneurship. I just want more for people. And so continue to share my story, teach the lessons, like the real ins and outs of entrepreneurship. Even though I've done a bunch, I'm not going to try to talk about like theories or things other people are doing. I just like to share my story and impact the world in that place and get people to level their lives up. Secondarily from that, I just started to take on consulting clients, just took my first consulting client on. So what I'm doing in those companies is I'm helping them build out their own internal search engine optimization team. If they want to go to different markets, or they just really want to dominate their market and not have to pay a marketing company to do that, I'm going to use the exact same strategies that I used to build my auto glass company, my landscape design company. So I'm getting a lot of interest from that, because there's a certain point in somebody's business where they're just going to want to pay more to have the process and system internal, so they have more control over it and they own that, versus hiring a marketing company. So just differentiating the offer of what I can do to help people, doing exactly what I did in my other companies.
Awesome. That's amazing. Congratulations.
It is. And I love that you said, your passion and mission is helping people level up their lives.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I realized looking back in my life, what got me to where I'm at. Even though it probably wasn't as apparent at the time, there was always somebody, whether it was a coach, my dad, a mentor at the time, saying, hey, you're doing fine, but you could be doing so much better. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've really loved about entrepreneurship, is I always kind of had somebody in my corner telling me that in multiple fashions. But I realized so many people don't have that. Yeah. And sometimes you obviously have to pay for that. But oftentimes, if you listen to podcasts, and read books, you join these types of free groups that are out there, or go to these events, you can get that information. And I just want to be able to project that on the world, no different than it had a massive impact on me.
Yeah. And I think it's so important that, like yourself, you're sharing your story and other entrepreneurs do it. And you'll have some people say, oh, they're just bragging or flexing. No, like people want to hear that. People want to know that you're human and that you had a struggle and everything wasn't just given to you on a platter. So I really think that's important for entrepreneurs to share their stories and share the wins, but also the failures and the hard times, because it inspires others that like, I'm not alone. Like if he can do it, I can do it. So keep on sharing that. And I'm so excited to hear about some more consulting contracts coming up for you here in the future. And when's your next speaking engagement other than next week?
So I'm speaking at a summit here in St. Louis about a month from now. It's called the Grit Summit. So it's a bunch of different entrepreneurs coming, I think about 500 in total here in St. Louis. So I actually have 2 different sessions that I'll be doing there. So it'll be another pretty good size one.
Awesome. Well, congrats.
Where can the audience follow and find you, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to AdamMcChesney.com. You'll see all my social links, all the stuff about my different businesses. Instagram is going to be the easiest social network to catch me on, and that's Adam L. McChesney.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Adam. I'm so excited to see what's coming for you, and I can't wait to see the baby pictures in the fall. And thank you so much for taking your time today to speak with us. You got anything else? No?
It's been another episode of In the Foxhole. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.